Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing Nuke.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. Jarret Hurd calls out Errol Spence Jr. again. This is the second time that Jarret Hurd, a world champion at 154 pounds, has called out Errol Spence Jr., and Errol Spence Jr. has yet to acknowledge his call out. Let's just go for a direct quote. According to BoxingScene.com. Now, this is Jarret Hurd's second time calling him out, and he basically stated, so when you think about the champions, you've got Jaime Munguia, the WBO world champion, who is on top rank, HBO side, so that would be tough for Spence to go after someone like him. Then you've got Jermell Charlo, WBC, who is in Spence camp, sharing the same trainer in Derrick James, so he's unlikely to face him first. So the only person Spence could be speaking about is me at 154 pounds, and I'd like that fight for sure. That's a very, very interesting statement. And here's another quote from him. He's basically stated, I've seen interviews where Errol Spence has said that when I move up, I want to go straight for the goal. And that's very interesting. Just basically saying that he wants a world title shot right away. And Errol Spence Jr. is a particular fight against Jarret Hurd that looks like that should happen, that could happen, because Errol Spence Jr. has said on many occasions that, hey, I'm going to move up as far as 160 pounds. Hell, and a lot of people are saying, no, Errol Spence Jr. is a natural welterweight. He is not a natural welterweight. He's basically a more of a natural 154 pounder. And this is for all the fanboys who say he's not. He's already called out Canelo at 160 pounds. And it's not just for the money, because he's already stated that he doesn't know how long he'll be able to stay at 147 pounds. He's already stated that he's looking to move up to 154 soon, and he's eventually going to get to 160. He's not a natural 147-pound fighter. He's a bigger fighter, and to some degree, he's a weight bully for the division, if we're just being honest. But it is what it is. We would love to see him fight at Jarret Hurd at 154 pounds. He's already challenged Kell Brook to a fight at 154 pounds if Kell Brook wins a world title. Now, Jarret Hurd has a world title. That would be a great matchup. And the way I see that fight breaking down is a very interesting breakdown, because at 154 pounds, Jarret Hurd is a big fucking guy. Errol Spence is still a big guy. So let's kind of compare these guys and see how they match up. Now let's start with Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is a very talented fighter with elite punching power at 147 pounds. He's an elite body puncher as well. He has a record of 24 wins, no losses with 21 knockouts. His last 3 fights were against a special Kell Brook, who's coming off a knockout loss in which he stopped in the 11th round. He won 11th round with the fighter who had an injury and who's coming off a knockout loss. His next fight, he stopped Lamont Peterson in the 7th. And his most recent fight was a first-round stoppage of a tomato can known as Carlos Ocampo. Errol Spence Jr. is 28 years old. He's 5'9.5", and he has a 72-inch reach. And so that pretty much summarizes who Errol Spence Jr. is and basically his size. So he's a pretty big guy. He has a pretty good size. He has a natural weight and build to be able to fit and fill out 154 pounds. And he may even get even stronger at 154 pounds. On the reverse end, Jarret Hurd has 22 wins, no losses with 15 knockouts. He's 28 years old, and he's also 6'1". He has a 76.5-inch reach, and his last 3 opponents were a Tony Harris, in which he stopped in the 9th round. Then he defeated an Austin Trout, and he stopped him in the 10th round. And the interesting thing about that is Austin Trout has fought Jermell and Jermall Charlo, and he has never been stopped in his career except by Jarret Hurd. That was a hell of a fight, and he gave Austin Trout one hell of a beating. In his most recent fight, he fought in Erislandy Lara, in which he won a split decision over 12 rounds. I personally thought Erislandy Lara could have edged him out in that fight, but it was a very, very close fight. I would have loved to see a rematch. Erislandy Lara has a completely different boxing style than Errol Spence Jr. He's more of a pure boxer, a guy who can use head movement, lateral movement, but he got caught late in that fight and got dropped, and based on the judges' scorecards, that turned the fight in Jarret Hurd's favor. Now, if we look at an Errol Spence Jr. versus a Jarret Hurd, Errol Spence Jr. will work his body. He will hit Jarret Hurd. Hurd does not have an elite level defense to where he's going to be able to outmaneuver Errol Spence Jr. That's not the type of fight we would see. The type of fight we would see is guys going at it straight up, blow for blow. Errol Spence Jr. has poor head movement and poor foot movement as well. And so he would also be the smaller guy. Jarret Hurd would have the reach in that aspect. And Jarret Hurd is a very hard puncher. We've never seen Errol Spence Jr. in with another world champion like that. A guy who can bang like that. A guy that big, that strong, with those many advantages over Errol Spence Jr. at this level. So I think that's a 50-50 fight. And as of right now, would lean towards Jarret Hurd. A lot of people don't want to talk about this, all that fake new media shit, is because the reason why they don't want to talk about this, because this is the type of fight that truly makes sense. Errol Spence Jr. settling in at a weight class that's more naturally suited to who he is and his build as a fighter, and they don't want to see the best fight the best. They talk about it, but they don't really want to see it, because that's a fight that's more of an even fight, a more of a 50-50 fight, fighting a guy in more of his natural weight class. And I think that I think that Errol Spence Jr. could possibly hurt or stop Jarret Hurd, because Jarret Hurd has such poor defense. He's going to be exposed, and Errol Spence Jr. does have elite punching power. So that's not the shit on Errol Spence. I like Errol Spence. I think he's a very good and talented fighter. He's just unproven, and there's a lot of holes in his game, similar to Jarret Hurd. There's a lot of holes in his game as well. That's what makes that such an intriguing fight. Two big fucking guys fighting for a title, who basically takes a punch to give a punch. And both of these guys are going to be going straight up at each other. The difference between an Errol Spence Jr. and a guy like a Floyd Mayweather is completely different, because a lot of guys hype that up differently. And you got to look at it like this. While Errol Spence Jr. fights at 147 pounds, similar to Floyd Mayweather Jr., the skill sets are vastly different. So when you hear guys saying Errol Spence Jr. is going to take over where Floyd left off, that makes no sense to me, because he doesn't have the multitude of skills that Floyd Mayweather Jr. had. The reason why Floyd Mayweather Jr. was so fucking hard to beat is because he could adapt to many styles. Errol Spence Jr. fights one particular way and hasn't shown that he has levels in his game. He's just shown that he has elite punching power. So that's just the unbiased, unfiltered truth of who Errol Spence Jr. is. I think if they make this fight, it'll be a hell of a fight. It'll be a 50-50 fight, and I think that's something that should be explored. You'd make Errol Spence a 2-division world champion if he could pull off the win against a Jarret Hurd. That'll make his name even bigger. I think that's something that everyone would love to see. Once again, it's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.